You ever meet someone who acts like they own the whole neighborhood just because they wear a fake badge? Yeah, that's how my war with the so-called HOA cops started. Before we dive in, comment which country you're watching from. Let's see how far this story travels. It was a quiet Tuesday morning when I stepped outside to find a massive white pickup truck blocking my gate. Big metal grille, tinted windows, and on the side, painted in bold white letters, HOA Police. I thought maybe it was a joke at first, but then the driver stepped out, tall, muscular, wearing a vest labeled HOA cop and dark sunglasses. He stood like he was guarding the president. Morning, I said, forcing a calm tone. You're blocking my driveway. He didn't even blink. Routine inspection. Your property's under HOA review. I frowned. Under review for what? He pointed at my gate. Improper alignment. Doesn't meet community aesthetics. That's when I realized this wasn't an inspection. It was a power trip. Move your truck, I told him, stepping closer. He smirked. You can't order a law enforcement vehicle to move. I laughed. Law enforcement? You're a security guard with a paint job. That hit a nerve. He puffed out his chest and flashed a fake badge that read Community Compliance Division, Officer Mallory. Watch your tone, he warned. Obstruction of an HOA officer is grounds for citation. I pulled out my phone and hit record. Say that again for the camera, he sneered. You'll regret that. Then he climbed back in his truck and stayed there, engine running, for 6 straight hours. That night, I couldn't open my gate to park. My wife had to leave her car outside on the curb. The next morning, same thing. Truck still there, same smug face behind the wheel. Didn't get the message yesterday? I asked. HOA directive, he said, holding up a paper. You're in violation of perimeter spacing code. Until it's resolved, this area is restricted. That's when I knew this wasn't about rules, it was personal. So I called the sheriff's department. The deputy on the line confirmed exactly what I suspected. HOA officers have zero legal power to block or restrict property. That's impersonation of an officer if he's claiming authority, the deputy said. Document everything. Oh, I did more than document it. I measured his truck, took photos, printed timestamps, and even filmed the license plate. 3 days later, he blocked me in again, this time honking whenever I tried to talk. I stood there watching that engine idle, smoke rising in the morning air, and that's when the idea hit me. He wanted to park in front of my gate? Fine. I'd make sure he never parked there again. The next morning, I drove straight to the HOA office. My binder sat in the passenger seat, stuffed with printed screenshots, photos, and time-stamped videos of that truck blocking my gate. The sign outside the building said Willow Ridge Community Management, but stepping in felt more like entering a courtroom where the verdict was already written. Behind the long conference table sat Karen Holloway, the HOA president, tall, severe, wearing a blazer that could cut glass. She had that calm, polished tone that people use when they think authority makes them untouchable. Mr. Cole, she said smoothly, I assume this is about Officer Mallory. Not an officer, I corrected. He's an HOA cop, Karen, not law enforcement. And he's been parking his truck across my gate every morning like it's his personal checkpoint. Karen's smile didn't flinch. Trent Mallory was hired by the board for neighborhood safety. If he parks in certain areas, that's part of his duties. I stared at her, disbelief boiling. You're defending him parking in front of my gate? He's blocking access to private property, Karen. I've called the sheriff, twice. They confirmed he's not authorized to enforce anything. Her fingers tapped the desk, measured and deliberate. Mr. Cole, we're all trying to maintain order. Maybe if you cooperated with our inspection requests, there'd be less tension. I almost laughed. Inspection requests? You mean the fake violations you keep mailing me? The ones citing bylaws you invented last month? She leaned back. You can bring that up at the next meeting, she said curtly. Until then, Trent stays where he is. That was the moment I realized she wasn't just covering for Mallory. She was enabling him. The HOA wasn't clueless. They were complicit. I left without another word. But by the time I got home, the plan had already begun forming. I called Leah Patel, my lawyer and closest friend in this mess. She's the kind who reads the county code like a bedtime story. When she heard what happened, her tone went cold. Ethan, obstruction of private property is still obstruction, she said. Get documentation, witnesses, and proof of interference with access. Once we've got that, you can have it removed, legally. Next, I called Mike Torres, the local logger who owed me a favor. He showed up at my gate with his coffee mug and that look in his eye, the kind that says he's seen enough injustice to stop asking permission. So the guy parks here every morning? He asked. Every single one, I said. Mike spat in the dirt. Then we'll handle it. Clean and by the book. Over the next few days, we gathered everything. Photographs, timestamps, witness statements from neighbors who couldn't drive past the blockade. Leah drafted the paperwork citing obstruction of access under local property law. The county signed off on it faster than I expected. When I looked at the papers stamped and ready, I felt something I hadn't in months: control. Mike's voice came over the phone that night. So what's the move, Cole? I exhaled. We do it tomorrow. Daylight, cameras rolling, no violence, no words, just action. Tomorrow, that HOA truck was about to learn what happens when it parks in front of the wrong man's gate. If you're enjoying this HOA story so far, like and subscribe because the story is only going to get better. Morning came clear and sharp, the kind of morning that makes even bad decisions feel justified. The county papers sat on my dashboard, stamped and sealed. Legal clearance. Mike's logging truck idled at the corner, its engine rumbling like distant thunder. A few neighbors lingered by their porches, phones ready. Everyone knew what was about to happen. And right on schedule, Trent Mallory's white HOA truck rolled up and parked squarely across my gate. He stepped out, sunglasses on, utility vest gleaming with bold white letters, HOA cop. He leaned against the hood and said, "Roads closed for safety, Cole. HOA orders." I walked right up to him, holding the county document between two fingers. "Not anymore," I said. "This paper says you're trespassing." He scoffed. "That doesn't override HOA jurisdiction." I smiled. "There is no HOA jurisdiction over private property, Trent. Step aside." He didn't move. Instead, he crossed his arms and smirked. "You gonna make me?" I didn't answer. I just turned, raised a hand, and gave Mike the signal. The logging truck's engine roared like an earthquake. The crowd flinched as it crawled forward, heavy tires grinding gravel. Trent's face drained of color. He jumped back as the truck's massive bumper nudged his fender. Metal screamed. Glass shattered. The HOA truck's front end crumpled like a soda can. The airbag exploded in a puff of white. The truck completely totaled. Deputies, the real ones, were already waiting down the road. They'd been briefed by Leah and had seen the footage I'd submitted. The moment the impact happened, they rolled in fast with lights flashing. Trent tried to play the victim. He destroyed HOA property. That's illegal. The deputy, a tall man with mirrored shades, held up a printout. "This truck's not HOA property, sir. It's registered to you personally, and you've been illegally blocking access to private land for 2 weeks." That's when I saw Karen Holloway's car pulling up fast. She stepped out in her designer heels, shouting, "You can't arrest him. He was enforcing neighborhood policy." The deputy turned to her. "Ma'am, you authorized this harassment. We have proof of HOA funds misused for private enforcement. You're both under investigation for fraud and impersonation." Her voice broke. "You can't prove anything." Leah appeared beside me, arms folded. "Actually, we can." She handed over the binder, the same one that had been on my kitchen table for months. Every fake citation, every payment, every lie. The deputies cuffed Trent first, then Karen. She protested all the way to the cruiser, shouting about community safety while neighbors filmed from their lawns. For the first time, Willow Ridge didn't look afraid. It looked free. A week later, the county dissolved the HOA permanently. Karen was fined $85,000 for fraud, misuse of funds, and property obstruction. Trent lost his security license and faced 18 months in county jail for impersonating an officer. The sign at the neighborhood entrance that once read, "Willow Ridge," managed by HOA, was taken down that Friday. All that was left were the wooden posts, splintered and empty. That evening, I stood by my repaired gate. Mike parked the logging truck nearby, this time behind the fence where it belonged. He looked over and grinned. "Guess the road's open again, huh?" I nodded, smiling faintly. "Yeah, open and quiet." The sun dropped low, painting the road gold. Neighbors waved as they passed, and for the first time in a long time, I felt peace, the kind that doesn't need permission. Because in Willow Ridge, justice didn't come from paperwork anymore. It came from standing your ground. The end.